Hello again. Alright, there's actually two different ways you can make sound in pure data. The first way was this digital signal processing, where you actually make the oscillator that makes the sound. The other way is just to use MIDI. You send out a MIDI note on or off or whatever to some type of MIDI synthesizer that's built into Windows or whatever operating system you have. Just to make sure, go to MIDI, Media, MIDI settings, and then make sure that the output device is this Microsoft GS Wavetable Synth. Alright, so there's a pretty nice object that's called the Make Note object. Just for reference, you can make an object and right click and go to Help to see that object, how it works in context. So what it does is it makes out a note on or off pair. Let me clear the console so you can see. So here it is in context. The left outlet will send out what pitch to play, and the right outlet will send out how loud it should be. So if we click on this guy, so you'll see two different things. Every time I click on it, it sends out the note on message, the note off message, the note on message, the note off message. So you can set that. So what's its arguments? So its arguments, you can have initial velocity and initial duration. So that means that if we give it a number, it will play a pitch at 60 for 3.2 velocity. A 2 velocity. There we go. Sorry about that. Alright, because once you send it, it kind of overrides the default arguments. So since I already clicked that, it'll do that. So you can reset the velocity and the duration as well from the inlets. So that kind of doesn't really help us anything, so let's just play around with it. So the make note, since it's default arguments, it wants initial velocity, and which is like how loud it is, and then for how long we want that note to be. So velocity is in MIDI, so 100. The loudest MIDI thing could be 127, so 100 is pretty good. And then for how long is in milliseconds, so we're going to say 500 milliseconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this guy a number. Here's something that we haven't used yet. We're going to put a message box. So a message box looks a little bit different than these object boxes. It has a little like curve, it looks like a flag. But what we can do is we can write whatever we want into this message box. So I'm going to put a number, let's give it a MIDI pitch value of 50, who cares? Alright, so we're going to plug that in there. And because its first inlet can expect pitch, the first inlet can take a list of things, but just for now, we're using it for pitch. So then the final thing, we need to send this thing, because this is just the note on-off pair, to the actual synthesizer, and the way to do that is you say note out. So that's another object that goes to note out. And hopefully, if we click this button, even though that we don't have digital signal processing on, this MIDI note will be sent, this MIDI note on and off pair will be sent to the internal synthesizer that it actually has. Actually, I believe that you also have to plug in the right inlet, because the right inlet should be velocity, so it needs to know how loud it should be. So this one sends out pitch, that one sends out velocity. So here we go. To interact with the message box, meaning like if I want to say like send that message to the next object, you can click on it, but you have to click on it in edit mode. So I can hit Control and then click, boom, and it makes that note. So I can change the length of the note, so now it's going to play for a whole second. And I can change the pitch of that note, so let me make it a different pitch. You can click on it a bunch. Alright, now that's the very intro to MIDI.